Welcome to Intuitive Transformations with your host, Sylvia Henderson, and discover tools, wisdom, and inspiration that will empower you to transform your life. Sylvia is an intuitive life coach and energy healer with a growing practice that is focused on empowering others to be more of who they want to be. For the next hour, join Sylvia and explore and unravel anything in the way of you creating the life that you would love to live on the Om Times Radio Network.
Well, hello and welcome to the Intuitive Transformations radio show, where you will find tools that you can use to change and transform your life every Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Om Times Radio Network, the voice of consciousness at omtimes.com. This is Sylvia Henderson, your host, and to learn more about me and the work that I do, please visit my website at intuitivetransformations.net. That's intuitivetransformations with an S.net. And please download my free 20-minute healing audio, Healing Fear During Uncertain Times, when you join my email group. You know, when I was guided to create this healing audio, I really had no idea how important it would be for those seeking relief from the emotional tidal waves that we are all going through together. And if you already own this free download, then please remember to use it and use it regularly. We are in the midst of 4 major planetary retrogrades. We've got Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, and then, of course, our favorite friend, Mercury, who just joined the party last Sunday, all in retrograde. Now, this coupled with the rising of Mother Earth's vibrational energy field is actually pushing us to release some really heavy, dense and old, very old emotional baggage from our energy fields, from the cells of our body, and even from our ancestral DNA, and all levels of our individual consciousness, as well as releasing from the collective consciousness of the whole. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, I want you to know you are definitely not alone, because I'm even going through this too myself. Now, some of the emotional upheaval is also coming in because of just how connected we truly are to one another. Just kind of like how your router or modem in your home can connect all the peripheral devices that you own via wireless connection. We're doing that as well. And some of you have been feeling some really wild swings of emotions because there is a part of you that is really tapping into even future events. For instance, before today's show, I just saw that the U.S. had dropped a near nuclear level bomb on Afghanistan. And interestingly enough, during a really beautiful Reiki session that I was having last Tuesday, which normally allows me to really drop into extreme inner peace and do some healing there on the table, I was very restless, and which is unusual. And by the end of the session, I was shown that the U.S. was going to go to war, and it really shocked me. Because I didn't know if it was projected thought from others, because there's so much fear that's coming up to be released and healed. But something within me said that it was true because of the imagery that I was given. And I want you to know that I'm not telling you this in order to incite fear or increase your anxiety. I'm telling you this because many of you need to know that you're being downloaded, probably some of you for the first time, with information and higher level vibrational energies that you have not previously had access to. So when this happens, and when you find yourself feeling sideswiped by an emotional tidal wave or tsunami, that's what I called it yesterday because that's what I went through, know that everything is coming up to your awareness so that it can be forgiven, it can be healed, and it can be released. And this is so, so, so important, so that you are not consumed by the fear of the general populace that surrounds us, and that you choose compassion for yourself and for others. That is going to be key as we continue to ride through this season of change that we're all going through. And also remember that the world is a mirror image. You know, everything in our external world is a mirror image, a reflection of what's going on within us. And what's playing out on the grand stage is actually reflecting back to humanity what's been held hidden or suppressed within the subconscious mind of the collective, that is that shadow aspect, that energy that's been causing harm. And it's, again, coming up to be released. And it's important not to resist your emotions, because when we resist our emotions, we stay stuck and imprisoned by them. But when we allow them to flow, just like a river down the stream, they will quickly move through us. I also want to invite you and remind you the importance of meditating, and meditation upon the vibration of compassion, upon unconditional love, self-acceptance, allowing what is, and also meditating on your own divine innocence and the innocence of others. Just even choosing the word compassion or unconditional love or self-acceptance or innocence is going to allow you to shift and change internally significantly. And know also that if action is required, it will present itself as inspired action. And it will not come from a place of fear, but from a heart-centered space that's out of alignment with Source and also your divine inner guidance, which everyone has. We all have inner guidance. Time and events on Mother Earth and with all of her inhabitants on the planet is really speeding up. And there are going to be more seasons of emotional turbulence as humanity continues its journey, really of awakening to the truth of its oneness with all that is, and of the absolute truth that all of life is innocence. So today, I am really pleased to share with you a wonderful healer by the name of Sergio Magana as my guest for today's show. Sergio Magana is a world-renowned Mexican healer who was surrounded by teachers of ancient Mexican spiritual and healing practices for most of his life. Although raised in a Catholic home, he was initiated into the 5,000-year-old Toltec lineage of Mesoamerica, which is what influenced the Mayan and the Aztec cultures. And he was trained in the Toltec shamanic oral tradition, which has been handed down for over 1,460 years. Sergio has a community of over 50,000 students worldwide and leads workshops around the globe, empowering others to evolve and heal themselves through a new approach to an ancient tradition. Sergio Magana is the author of several books, including his brand new book, his latest book, Caves of Power, Ancient Energy Techniques for Healing, Rejuvenation, and Manifestation. Sergio, welcome to the Intuitive Transformations radio show.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. For me, it's an honor to be here. And thank you for inviting me and for the beautiful words that you're telling everyone in these challenging times. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm really happy that you took some time out of your teaching schedule, because you're actually in Paris at this time joining us. And I just so value you, your commitment to sharing your work around the world, and your willingness to be here and sharing it on the show. So, Sergio, everyone's journey into their divine purpose is unique and different. And yours as well. You're no exception. Would you mind sharing the story about how your journey to becoming a healer unfolded for you?
Of course. Like you said, I was born in a Catholic family. My family is traditional. The huge difference was that I had a nanny and my mother worked, so I was really raised by two mothers, but more for the nanny. And she was the daughter of a healer of a group that lived very close to Mexico City, the Otomis, and an indigenous group. And she was supposed to be the next one in the line for healing of her town. Certain things made her to escape from her community, and she kind of ended finishing in my parents' house, working in my parents' house. So this happened before I was born. So actually, I was kind of the son that she could never have in her own life. So when I grew up, like I said, I grew up with two mothers. One that was quite normal. That, for example, if I had a headache or I was ill or something, she would give me a pill or will take me to the doctor, the normal things. And the other one that instead of that, for example, she would take tobacco and smudge me, and then in the area that I was ill or sick, and then she will smoke actually the tobacco, and then blow out the smoke in the area of the body, and it will disappear the pain. Or if it was something a little bit more difficult to heal, she would take an egg and clean the energy around, and then break the egg in water and read exactly. And I remember perfectly that in the way that the egg yolk in the water actually in the shape, or if the egg yolk was broken, it meant that it was something worse and that you needed more attention. And so I began learning all these kind of things.
I'm so sorry, Sergio. We're going right into a break. When we return, I'd like you to finish that story where you left off about this, how you had two mothers with two different healing approaches. We'll be back in just a few moments, everyone, with more of Sergio Magana. You do not want to miss this show. It's so important. Stay tuned for more.
The future of Internet radio is here. Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I did the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Fantastic. We are back. So, Sergio, I know that right before the break started, you had shared about how you were really raised by two mothers, really. One who was your birth mother, who was much more traditional in how she would assist you or help you to get better when you were ill, and then the other woman who you considered also to be a mother, who would do things like smudge you with tobacco and also rub an egg over you and then break that egg, and then depending upon the condition of the yolk, she could tell whether or not the issue was serious or something that would just easily pass. So can you just kind of continue where you left off in terms of how your healing journey, your journey into being a healer began?
Of course. And like that, she had many formulas. So I think that really made like a change in my way of thinking, because I saw that both traditional medicine worked. I saw that the other indigenous formulas like were like magic, because for me, because I was a little child, worked. And so now all my life I thought that there were two different possibilities to get a healing. Of course, I never thought about practicing this like a profession. I always wanted to be an actor. But I think that when things are meant, then they happen. Because for many years I not forgot, but I didn't practice what the nanny taught to me. But then I became like a rebel, a teenager, and then my mother sent me to a therapist, a psychotherapist, that actually she thought she was a normal therapist, but she was a psychotherapist, of course, but she was into energy healing, and she could see like energetic bodies and that. And actually, when I was with her, then she once was looking like at me with the peripheral vision, and then she told me, "No, you're not going to be an actor. You're going to do something like me, and you will be really." Those were her words. Yeah, you will be a really good one in this. I have never thought before about that. And then things began like developing. Many were the obstacles for being an actor, and that I think the universe wasn't helping me with that, and everything was so easy in the other path. For example, once I was in a talk about nutritional products, about vitamins, and I don't know how the theme went from that to energy healing. And then one of the because with the nanny and with Laura, I learned how to see the energetic body. So I asked one of the people there if she had a surgery, and then around in the area of the navel, and she told me yes. How do you know? I said, because the energy is stuck there. And her friends that were completely skeptical began asking me, and where me? And where do I have one? And where do I have one? And then I told all of them. And after that, I didn't know that she was like the director of a behavioral center in Mexico City. And she began sending like her clients to fix also their energy. And very, very quickly, I was totally booked. And I didn't think about working on that. And one of those clients was like the host of a radio show, that then they invited me, and then the radio station liked the show and offered me a section and then my own show, and everything of that happened like in 4 months. So I ended being an energetic healer, and I am still doing it.
Wow, that's amazing. I love when you're so in alignment with your purpose. And it's not even like you had to put the effort into it. It's like you just were guided, because this is really, why you came here, in this incarnation, to not only to help the many people you've helped, but also to bring forth this very ancient, these ancient oral traditions that previously were not found in books. And you give such a beautiful overview of them, especially a lot of the Toltec teaching traditions, and even very ancient, all the way back to the Aztec time, because this is where what the techniques and rituals that you provide in the caves of power are really based upon. So how old are these traditions that you bring forth in your book, and where do you feel they really originated from before the Toltecs and the ancient mystical Mexicans discovered them? And also, how can we use them to assist us in our modern day society if we choose to?
Of course. Actually, in my training in the old Mexican tradition came a little bit after that I began the radio show, because one of my teachers, that is called Hugo Nawi, is called because he's still alive, and I work many times with him. He was hearing the radio show, and then he said, it's him, the one that is going to share the Mexica is one group of the Aztecs lineage that I have been learning with the world. And then through the radio show, we were sponsoring certain workshops, and he came to one of those and told me, I didn't come to learn anything. I came to teach you. Of course, in the beginning, you don't know if he's in his mind. I didn't know. Many people sometimes in this path, the line is very thin between the people that think that receive messages and the ones that have real ones. So I said, okay, because he was insistent. He came many times. Mm-hmm. So once I told him, okay, I will give you 1 hour. Imagine, I didn't know anything. And in that hour, he explained me all the mathematics of the universe, why these teachings were hidden, why there was like the prophecy of the last Aztec ruler, that in this time that we are crossing from the 5th to the 6th sun, that are periods of 6,625 years. They were going to, it was a time from the coming back of these teachings, and many things that I was totally fascinated. From there, he began teaching me in individual sessions, all for every Thursday. He was Thursdays for many, many years, and then he introduced me other of my main teachers, that his friends, Charlotte of the tradition, that began teaching me in the dream knowledge, in the dreaming knowledge for years and years. Tuesday, one was Tuesday and the other Thursday. And of course, originally this knowledge is from what we call the Nahua speaking groups, that they started with the Olmecs, then went to the Teotihuacans, then Xochicalcas, then the people from Cacaxtla, finally the Toltecs, what people know about Toltecs, that were the ones that lived like 1,000 years ago in a place called Tula, very close to Mexico City, and finally the Aztecs. So officially, at least, the lineages should have like 3,000 years for. But for the people of the oral tradition, they say that at least they have 50,000 years. That I know that for the. So I think that where I was born finally developed the purpose, because like I was born, like I said, in a very traditional family. So, and these teachings are a lot of times very poetic, very metaphorical, and that what I have done is like to bridge what were. Because, for example, one of my teachers, Charlotte, that I still.
So we lost. I'm sorry, I was talking to the engineer, and you probably couldn't hear me talking, so you're wondering, who is Sylvia talking to? So just so you know, those of you who are listening, it looks like we lost Sergio for a moment, and I think. Okay, great. So I just found out from the engineer that he hung up. He's going to dial back in so we can continue this conversation. You know, we are in Mercury retrograde, everyone, and this is when, things like electronics and technology and communication can go haywire. And I guess right now we are in no such exception. We're experiencing a little bit of that. And I know we got about a minute before the break. And so let's see if we can't get him back very shortly, because this is just a fascinating conversation that he's sharing with us. I just sent him a message via Facebook. Not Facebook, but Skype. It looks like he went offline. He may have lost his connection in Paris. We'll be back in just a moment, everyone, with more of Intuitive Transformations and Sergio Magana.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, Om Times Radio, IOM FM. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Well, we're back, everyone, and I'm happy to say so is Sergio, as a matter of fact. I was just sharing, Sergio, while I lost you, that we are in Mercury retrograde, and that does affect communication and technology and electronics. And boy, I tell you, bolstered with Saturn and everything else, it definitely is playing to be true. So I'm so sorry, Sergio, that happened.
No. Don't worry. No, it was me, I think, because suddenly I saw that I wasn't connected anymore, and I kept talking, and then I said, ooh.
Well, okay. So anyway, all is always in perfect and divine order. And so I do, I want to talk about the 7 energy systems, just centers, just very briefly, because that is taught in ancient Mexican teachings, because I found it really fascinating. Actually, instead of that, you know what I really want to talk about, Sergio, is the Toltec numerology, because I feel like that is a big cornerstone of your book. And then I want to talk about the caves, because that's also very important to talk about. But what I found very interesting is I was reading in your book this wonderful wealth of information you provide on Toltec numerology and the description, the properties and the energy of every number, the vibration of the numbers. I was really struck by how the number 11 so closely mirrors westernized numerology, which is based on ancient I can't even say the word, but another era. With this being a number 1, but you in your book say that in Toltec numerology that the world is actually experiencing the vibration in number 11. So I know we don't have time to go through all 20 numbers, because there are 20 numbers involved in this particular system. But can you speak about the number 11, because that's really where we're sitting squarely right now?
Yes. Okay, I will just explain a little bit more. Why 20 numbers? That of course there are all the numbers, like in any count, but there are 20 mainly because the count of what in the ancient Aztec and Toltec calendars and Mayan also, of what we consider the months are 20, that they repeat again and again. So the mystic numerology one goes from 1, that is the start of something, and it's directly related to our body always. So, for example, 1 could be 1 finger. So when you achieve 5, you have done the 5 fingers. Then when you get to 10, you will achieve 10, 2 hands, for example, if we start by the hands. And when you are in the number 11, is then actually the 11 would be a third count, because it will be like the 1 finger of 1 foot. So, and actually in the way that numbers were written for the ancient Mayans and Mexicas, it was like that, because you will, for example, 1 would be 1 dot, 2 dots, and like that, or two balls. And then every time that you got to 5, it would be a line. So if we see 11, it would be 2 lines, and then a new count is starting. So that's why, like we're changing of sun, that sounds like I said, it was like the period of 6,625 years that are the long count, that is related to the precession of equinoxes. So we're coming like for a previous sun, that it was a sun of the tonal, of the waking state. That, what does that mean? When we are awake, we have opened eyes, and we're seeing outside. And so where is God? Outside. Where is medicine? Outside. Where is satisfaction? Outside. So these suns are really good for war, for example, to conquer other ones, like you were saying, for religion, because you have a God outside, for the medicine that comes from outside. But now we're in the starting of a shift to a new count that is like what we call from the Nahual. The Nahual is the energetic body that you use for dreaming. That would be to go back inside again, like when you are dreaming. So God goes again inside of you, medicine, satisfaction. But every time that we are like in this kind of transition, that they are symbolized in the sunstone of the ancient Mexicans, every time that you cross from one period to the other, there will be like eagle claws in the middle. That means that the previous order must be destroyed in order to get to the new one. So that's why I put in the book that now we are in like crossing through the number 11. That is not easy. And also for the people that in our count, it doesn't mean 11 of March or 11 of April, but the people like for the ancient Mexican calendar, they are born like in 11 Eagle or 11 Jaguar. They are like in a start of a new energetic period. So it's not easy, because the previous order has to be destroyed in order to start a new one. So, and I think that if we see the planet, many of these things are happening because political, economic systems that we're relaying we were relaying on are like shaking religious ones, and we're waiting until we get to the number 12. That will be all the wisdom from the destruction of the previous order to start a new one, that actually will flower when we get into the number 13, and we will see which is the new order. But it's quite interesting, and everything is based on in mathematics and also like in the etymologies. What does that in Nahuatl, the ancient language, mean the number.
Well, it's really interesting because now in westernized numerology, it's based upon a calendar year. But what you're saying is this is based upon energetic periods, not necessarily a year cycle. Is that correct?
Yeah, okay. It's a year cycle that is divided for example, it could be a year cycle that is divided in 18 groups of 20. And that always goes from 1 to 20, but also that is of the Aztec calendar, that is like in the center. But the outer ring, it's the one that corresponds to the long count that I was telling you, is of 26,500 years, and that is split into 4 because the ancient Mexicans said that the main mathematic of the universe was the 4. That's why 4 elements or 4 main moments of the day, that would be the morning, midday, sunset, midnight, or the 4 phases of the moon. So we're crossing from one of those, from one of these periods to the next one. And when you are changing and starting like a new count, that's what in the numerology, in the shorter one, would be a number 11.
I see. So all of this information, everyone who's listening, is in Sergio's amazing book, Caves of Power: Ancient Energy Techniques for Healing, Rejuvenation, and Manifestation. And here's what's beautiful about these old teachings, these ancient wisdom teachings, is that what we used to do before, that old system he's talking about that's coming undone, that must disappear before the new begins. Even healers are finding that some of the things that used to work before, and people are finding some of the strategies they used to use before, they're not working anymore. They're not helping us within our lives and bringing us well-being and inner peace. And what Sergio's offering in his book, Caves of Power: Ancient Energy Techniques for Healing, Rejuvenation, and Manifestation, are these earlier teachings that are all this inward work. Whether you're doing it from a waking state or a dreamlight state, it's still all inward work. And that is what he just shared we're moving into as we're traversing from the number 11 for God knows how long, through 12 into 13 eventually. And Sergio, when someone purchases your book, there are so many different techniques and rituals, and they're also beautiful in there. And but where is the best place for someone? What's the first thing that someone, after they read the book, where should they start in terms of what they can implement in their life that would be the easiest for them to receive some benefit, especially those whose spirituality and doing spiritual work is really brand new for them?
I think the first thing is to what you were saying, to acknowledge that we are in a transition, that the transition is not over, because many people thought that it was in the 2012 and voila, we're in the next one, and it's not like that. If you see, and if we are all seeing, what's the transition about? So that's why you were saying many of the techniques that were working before are not working before, because when you are not working now, because when you enter in a new sun of the dreaming state and that, and you are closing eyes, the first thing that you see is your interior, your underworld, your own cave, like the ancient Mexicans called the unconscious, where your instincts live and everything like that. And so it's to begin really working in what many calls the shadow and that. And there are many, many techniques in the book, for example, but it's also very different. What do you want? In which period of your life you are? Because, for example, if you want an emotional healing because that's your main issue, there is a technique there that is to begin dreaming that, not dreaming in sleeping, but like to induce a state like dreaming in your waking state, and to visualize that your blood goes to different organs to digest the anger in your liver or the traumas in your stomach or your fear and guilt in your kidneys and like that. Or if you want to make this transition graciously, there is a first technique that is the first one that I put there that is based in breathing in your nose, counting 13, and then breathing out with your mouth, counting 8. That would be to tune with the energies. The 13 for us in that numerology means the number of the sun, and it would be to bring the power of the sun to heal. That also it's related to the greatest destiny, and to be tuning like that until 52. That is other thing about the cosmos, to change your energy graciously. But for example, if you have really heavy health issues, there are like other techniques like psychic surgery that is perfectly explained there. Or there's people that would love to rejuvenate and that. So there are techniques that are not like just for beauty and that. You are actually spinning, like many ancient traditions, like the Sufis and many ones, for a long time, while you are recalling that you are healing all your unconscious, that you are overcoming ancestral patterns and like that. So there is like, depending where you start.
Yeah. So everyone, I do want you to know this book is just chock full with so many different techniques and healing rituals that I believe will really benefit your life if you implement them earnestly from a heart-centered space. And we're going to another break, and when we return, we'll have Sergio Magana back in just a moment. So please stay tuned for more of Intuitive Transformations on OMTimes.com.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and the text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me. Whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Welcome back, everyone. We're in our final last few minutes of the show. I can't believe how incredibly quickly this has gone by. Sergio, I just want to make sure, are you still there? Because it looked like you were away for a minute.
No, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. Good. I was like, no, I hope I didn't lose him. So I want everyone to know how they can, of course they can get your book on Amazon and from any of the major book distributors. But how can people, stay in touch with you, find out where you're teaching next? I know you travel all over the world to share this wonderful wisdom and teach people how to do this in person. And just what a delightful opportunity that would be, I know, for some of those who are listening. So would you mind sharing your website with those who are interested?
No, of course. I would be delighted. It is Sergio, that is Sergio Magana, that is MAGANA.com, or Sergio Magana. It's also my Facebook. And there is a lot of information for me there. I teach in a lot of countries, so I will be close, I think, to everyone that is listening.
Awesome. And, for other, also if you're having a hard time finding him via his direct website, if you just Google or Bing caves of power, he will pop up. I promise you. So I want you to remember that as definitely an opportunity and a way for you to connect with this beautiful teaching and wisdom, because, it's not about just trying to put a new spin on something. This is authentic. This is real. This is ancient traditions that have been handed down for thousands and thousands of years, only solely by indigenous people via word of mouth. And some of the ancient teachings even teach that many of these who brought the teachings to the indigenous people were people from other planets, even, that this was starseed information. And so it's coming at a time when we so desperately need to do our inward work. And so I'm so grateful to you, Sergio, for bringing it forth in book form so that more and more people can have access to this very valuable information and all the tools that you provide. And I understand you're also working on additional books, too, to even further and deepen this work. Is that true?
Yes. I think that I'm doing this really because, like I said, it was mentioned in the beginning, it was like kind of easy. And everything works, but then it wasn't so easy to be doing it and to be traveling on that. But I keep doing it because, and this is like a very honest commentary, those tools have helped me to solve my own puzzle. Because I had many traumas of my childhood. I don't think that I was a really good healer and everything all my life. No, I had so many things to deal with myself, with my addictions, with my problems, with my traumas, with my self-esteem. And everything that I have written about is what really helped me and how I overcame not all, because I'm not perfect, but a lot of my issues. And I think I would be kind of desperate without that information. That's why I began doing books, because I'm traveling. That sometimes is not easy, and you are 1 week teaching here and the next one there. I'm sharing it because it was what changed my life. And I love when people come and say, this changed my life, because I was there. I was, I think, the first one when my teachers taught it to me, that changed his own life through these tools. And that's why, of course, I want to keep increasing and doing more work about deepening, about how the cave or the inside work for the ancient ones, and how our unconscious works, with very concrete explanations on how to help ourselves.
So I know we only have a few minutes left in the show, and I do definitely want you to speak a little bit more about what are the caves of power, and what they represent. And I know in your book you specifically focus on 7, but there are many more. But can you just briefly talk about what they are? Because you did touch about the subconscious, and it's kind of a metaphor for that. At least that's what I got from reading your book.
Yeah, it is a metaphor. Caves, there was this official version that the Aztecs, that means that the ones that were coming from Aztlan, were 7 groups that were in a pilgrimage looking for the promised land. And in the meantime, they were living in a cave with 7 entrances. That's the official one. No one questions it, if it's a myth or nothing like that. And then after 260 years, they found Tenochtitlan, what is Mexico City today. For the ones that are practicing the tradition, these caves are like a representation, and they are called Chicomostok, that means 7 caves, that are it's your inner cave that has 7 portals, that were the 7 entrances of the different caves, that are the Mexican equivalent of chakras, but that, of course, in Nahuatl were called Totonalcayos. So they are similar to chakras, but with different names and with different explanations. Because, for example, the one that is in the coccyx is where your ancestral patterns live, the things that you repeat again and again. The third one, for example, in the navel, represents who are you by calendar. That gives you certain, by birth date, that gives you certain challenges or gives you abilities. And they are of, like with different explanations. So actually, to activate those 7 like portals would be like the first cave of power. But actually, what I'm putting in the book is like the first trainings about the caves, that is your inner cave, were done in real caves. So real caves with a small like hole in the roof from which the light filters, and then you will take that light filtering in your darkness. There will be light coming to your subconscious, unconscious, and then you will begin getting the energy of the light and take it to all your totonalcayos or chakras, activating the cave. Of course, in modern times, like I said, I adapted this cave to, for example, I was doing my training in Mexico City, just closing all the curtains and making darkness in my house and just filtering a little bit of light to begin doing the process. But actually, caves of power are like the 20 most powerful things that the ancient Mexicans did to achieve their own power, for healing themselves and for healing others. 7 of these techniques are doing well while you are awake, and the other 13 belong to the dreaming knowledge. That would be, which things would you do while you are dreaming in lucid dreams to achieve all this power. And it's amazing, for example, because I started learning healing, for example, I said with Laura, my first teacher, and that of course worked in a certain level, but like many energy healers, I had many successes, but then a lot of failures also. But after I began my training with the Caves of Power and I began doing the real work, it doesn't mean the other wasn't real, but I began doing that had been hidden for many years in the tradition. Then for example, the average of success in the healings that I was doing for others, or how I changed myself, increased a lot. So it's a lot of a huge body of knowledge.
It is. And I love, it's interesting too, because reflecting back on what I said about the things that used to work are no longer working, those were really more external things. Even though there were energy healers healing, it was still more from a let me fix your symptom out here, as it's expressed eternally in your conscious awareness. Whereas now it seems like the most powerful, potent energy healings occur from the deep inward work, as you said, from within the cave of the subconscious mind. It's that stuff beneath the surface that's been previously hidden from our conscious awareness. We're getting more to the root of what causes dis-ease within us. And I also find it fascinating and quite ironic that that some in the United States are resisting the very culture that is heralding in the vibrational energy of oneness. That there are those in the United States that want that separation between us and Mexico. And it's really interesting because I feel within the rich, deep, ancient teachings that are being brought forth through you, that have been held energetically in the land of Mexico City for thousands and thousands of years, that many have looked to the Mayan calendar to understand what's going on with consciousness, is really coming forth out of the beautiful country of Mexico. So, the universe has a sense of humor. And it's very humbling.
When all these things between the countries started happening, many people told me, you are not going more to the States now, no? Because I have a lot of work in Mexico and I teach all over Europe and that. And people thought that it was logic for me to stay there and not to go. And I said, no, this is not the time to hide to yourself. There are so many wonderful people there. This is the time to show. That's why I began doing PR and everything this time, because I said, this is the time to share the value of Mexico there. So I'm not going to hide. But many people, their logic was when everything had started happening, like, okay, now you're going to work in Europe and in Mexico. I said, no, the opposite. This is the time because I don't believe in this separation.
Yeah. And because separation is the illusion, and this is the time for our humanity to heal. And I thank you so much, Sergio, for joining us today. Everyone, please go out and get his book, Caves of Power, Ancient Energy Techniques for Healing, Rejuvenation, and Manifestation, published by Hay House Publishing, Sergio Magana. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you for joining us, sir. You're a blessing and a delight. And everyone listening, goodbye. Know that I love you and know that you're loved. Until we meet again next week.